I'm going to start this discussion, first of all, by explaining the importance of it, because you're somebody who has experience both in industrial, but also in infrastructure systems. And you're also somebody who has been brought, if I could say, educated abroad. So you're coming with a wider lens when it comes to these topics. But before we talk about that, I would like to first start by asking you to explain to everybody watching us, what does Metal and Recycling Company do exactly?
Well, thank you first for the opportunity. Metal and Recycling Company has 4 pillars that we generate our revenues from. One is an industrial real estate activity whereby we lease and in a form or other incubate and assist smaller recyclers or waste managers to start up their businesses. So there's the real estate division. We have the hazardous and medical waste incineration business, whereby we treat the medical waste that's produced by the public and the private hospitals. And we also have a complete plastic recycling facility where we take post-consumer or industrial plastic wastes and produce them into raw materials, which are plastic pellets that go back into industry again. They also have a metal recycling facility, but we focus mostly on the steel business. As metals, there are many, copper, aluminium, and stuff like that. We mostly process the steel, whereby we take used vehicles or construction waste or the metal, and we process it to clean it up and provide raw materials for all of the metal producers, where they smelt and produce metal from the beginning.
Okay. Well, I think it's interesting because from the outside, it sounds, very operational. I would say almost technical. But when you think about it, what it really is, it's infrastructure. And I'm curious to know, for example, if your industry would stop working for, let's say, 48 to 72 hours, what would happen here?
Well, if you take, for example, the medical waste business or the medical and hazardous waste business, there is redundancy to a certain extent in our operations. But if, for example, if something occurs there, then that could be quite disastrous. Medical waste in Kuwait is mandated by the Public Authority of Environment to be incinerated. So all our incinerators are actually 2-chamber incinerators, whereby the first chamber burns off everything that you put in. And you can imagine medical waste has live bacteria and stuff like that comes out from the hospitals.
Exactly.
As well as contaminated, patient waste.
Okay.
So that actually gets incinerated at the first level at about 900 degrees to 1,000 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So we make sure everything is burnt. The effect or what that produces is it produces ash and it produces gases, dioxins. Those dioxins go into a secondary chamber that we incinerate at 1,300 degrees Celsius, therefore making it completely innate. So all the gases that are produced are completely innate. You get a little bit of carbon dioxide, you get vapor, and you get oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's treated. Now, if you imagine, in Kuwait, I think it'll be very difficult for that to shut down completely because there are 5 medical waste incinerators in operation today. They can't all close down at the same time. I mean, that's a significant disaster. But if, for example, something like that did occur, there is a slight backup plan because we all have fridges where we receive the medical waste and keep it at controlled temperatures. So you can have that up to 24, up to 48 hours. But if those fridges start getting filled up, then you're going to have an issue of this contagious, possibly, and hazardous waste that needs to be dealt with very quickly. The redundancy in our system, one of our incinerators, we operate 4 out of the 5 in Kuwait, 3 directly for the Ministry of Health,
Mm-hmm.
and 1 for the public sector, private sector, where all the other medical industry bring their waste to. Let's take one, for example. One of our bigger ones already has 2 lines. So it has built-in redundancy. So each line can process half a ton an hour. If we need to shut down one line, we can continue operating the second line.
Yeah.
And we could then, store a little bit more until we get the second line operational again. Although the medical waste amount in Kuwait produced daily is probably 50% of the capacity of the incinerators available in the country. So from an operational point of view, there's a lot of built-in redundancy for these machines and capacity. The issue would be something else, disastrous, that shuts them down.
Okay. I'm asking you because I do want your perspective over one thing. I don't feel like we talk enough about this industry. And I wanted to ask you, do you feel that it goes into the category of things that we talk only about when something goes wrong?
Yes. In a way, yes. In a way, no. I think awareness in Kuwait is now growing, especially on the consumer, household, and industrial wastes. There's a lot more awareness of that these wastes needs to be treated. A lot more green incentives. The oil and gas are very, very advanced in this, of course, because they trade internationally and deal internationally. And a lot of the times the trading partners or purchasers of oil require certain standards because they operate in Europe or they operate in the States or whatever. So they require that, they mandate that the facilities need to be at a certain spec.
Okay.
And the process and the transportation and everything is kind of controlled. Saying so, this is also filtering down into the household and the industry, or industrial zones or industrial area or marketplace. There is a lot more awareness in the households. There are more activities in terms of attempting to recycle in Kuwait. There is a little gap in the awareness itself, but there's also a gap in the facilities available and the way that you collect these wastes. We don't segregate well. The biggest issue with household is not segregated. Now, I remember in the States, they would segregate. They would have a place for your plastics, a place for your bottles. In Kuwait, everything's thrown into one bag.
Exactly. I'm going to make a bracket here. Like I see it's happening in a lot of European countries where I come from. That's what I know best, where you can take all the plastic bottles that you get at the supermarket, you can take them back there, and they have these machines where you put the bottle inside, it scans the code, and it gives you back the amount of money you paid for that plastic bottle.
Right. Yeah, but okay, yes. The issue with that is it's not a real practical operation, because the quantity of bottles produced, we did a research on recycling of water bottles. Kuwait consumes anywhere between 600 and 700 million bottles a year.
That's
So
massive.
if all the population take 10 bottles a day, that's what, 5 million bottles. That's not going to touch it. That's not going to really make a dent. Those are, from my point of view, they're good. They're initiatives. They create awareness. They make people do things and actually take action.
Exactly.
But the bigger picture is that we should be really segregating better in the household, having collection points. We don't have very detailed collection points. There are a couple of companies out there that are doing good things, but the quantities they're collecting is not really making a big dent. We, in our plastic facility, we process between 20 to 25 tons of plastic a day. Now, if you can imagine the size of that, plastic's very light. So there's a significant area or real estate plot that's needed to store all that and then process it. And a bottle of water today, the small one, is about 13 grams, and the big one, the 2-liter one, is about 33 grams. So how many bottles do you need to make a kilo? And then how many kilos do you need to make a ton?
But since you mentioned that, I'm curious, just following on what you just mentioned earlier, if we would have a more educated public, let's say, and we would have more initiatives on a personal level of, segregating these at home, and, education starts at home, do you feel that other industries are following this, right? Do you feel that there's enough recycling at an industry level?
At an industry level, I believe there is a little bit more recycling. there's always opportunities for growth. But from an industrial perspective, they must treat their wastes, and they must prove that they've treated their wastes. So all liquid wastes that come out of any manufacturing activity in Kuwait must go to the central water processing or the central liquid processing unit in Kuwait, and that is available near Wafra.
Can you tell me what this? Sorry, I'm interrupting you for a
All
second.
liquids,
what is-
no. All liquids. Any processing plant that you have, you'll have with it. For example, with our plastic, we wash the plastics to make it cleaner. So when we produce raw material, it doesn't have contaminants or has a minimal amount of contaminants. So we wash it. So we have an actual recycling system for our water where we can wash 3 or 4 or 5 times. The water gets recycled. But believe it or not, that water will end up being inactive or die. So we have to then take that water that is now contaminated and dirty
Yes.
and take it to this facility that they treat it.
Okay.
And
this you said at an industry level. So
that's an industrial level, yeah. Other industrial wastes that are categorized as hazardous, they have to go to the industrial landfill. And there is also an industrial landfill. Some of them are treated. Some of them, unfortunately, are buried. But at least the industrial is a organized and engineered landfill, whereby it's covered. So none of the liquids or any of the chemicals will actually seep through and into the ground.